Not every map in Halo has to have a perfect looking skybox to make a map good or bad. However, there is something special whenever you are playing on a map and a skybox, or the general out of bounds area that's not accessible in the map, builds a unique character or atmosphere for the location you're playing in. And over the years of Halo, we've seen these types of skyboxes evolve to some really great looking things, and we wanted to take a look at some of the greatest skyboxes of all time. Like for instance, Halo Reach's High Noon, which came with Combat Evolved Anniversary, has this outstanding magnet storm thing going on outside, and sure, it might have struggled along on the Xbox 360 days performance-wise, but darn it, it looked really cool. I always thought that on assembly, these massive satellites being in the distance not only showed how humanity's technology had evolved, but I don't know, there was something really cool about these satellites just being in the distance, existing as locations you wish you could go and journey to and get a closer look at, yet they are unreachable, and instead kind of paints this larger image that the Halo universe, whether on Earth or in the bigger Halo cosmos, is far more detailed and expansive than any other first-person shooter. The skyboxes across all Halo games that evoke that feeling of, hey, I really do wonder what's over there, even though I can't go over there, has always played a big role in the world-building side of things. The Halo Reach remake of Timberland is a great example of this, or the really cool cityscape of Halo 4's Skyline. Halo Reach also had the DLC map Highlands, which was just a really interesting experience because you're just fighting it out as some Spartans while the other side of the planet's just getting glassed or whatever. Still, a really cool set piece. Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary was probably one of the most controversial changes when it came to the way that skyboxes were approached. Giving credit where credit's due, the Anniversary remake version does have some beautiful looking skyboxes. Like, these are some amazing set pieces. But if you look at a map like Truth and Reconciliation or 343 Guilty Spark, you can kind of get the feeling that in the process of remastering and reinventing these skyboxes, the original artist intention of how these locations were supposed to look are kind of lost. So yes, this Anniversary skybox does look great, and even by 2001 standards, the original one looked pretty good too, though I completely understand why fans of the original Halo game aren't fond of the Anniversary versions, because these are dramatically translated from what they originally looked like. I think Halo is probably my favorite example of this, because in the original Combat Evolved level, I always loved the fact that this Halo ring was a different extraterrestrial body beyond just a simple planet. And the fact that the time period that Master Chief is on this Halo ring was kind of this interesting Twilight-ish period where it was daylight, but you could still see these stars because this ring doesn't work the same way as a typical planet, and it was this cool hybrid of daylight but still having some visibility into the night sky. Combat Evolved Anniversary spent a ton of time redoing the skybox and making something pretty, but they just went for like a daytime afternoon setting and kind of lost that feeling of a unique time period on this extraterrestrial ring. In general, I think when it comes to the Anniversary versions of the games, a lot of fans prefer how Halo 2 Anniversary handled a lot of the skyboxes and the set pieces beyond just the maps themselves. It definitely stays more closely in line with the original versions of the game, though there are some smaller critiques that could be made with the Anniversary versions, like that original reddish orange burning feeling that you get on Metropolis is kind of lost to this more duller coloration in the skybox. And High Charity looks really, really cool in both the original Halo 2 and Halo 2 Anniversary. The fact that they made something just look this cool in a set piece originally in 2004 and then remastered it was awesome. Though the remaster does look a little bit more like a cyberpunk human city than this like alien ancient artifact inspired city. It's really nitpicky, but the differences are worth noting, and neither of these are necessarily bad. In the Halo TV show, we do briefly get to see High Charity translated into this live action format, though it's still kind of just the background image. And I think they leaned more into that city aesthetic once again, and it maybe fits in the television series a little bit better, but getting skyboxes 100% perfect is probably the least of the TV show's worries. Over in Halo 4, there was this amazing looking skybox on Requiem that you briefly stop by and drive by just as this, if anything, technological achievement that was made possible on the Xbox 360. There really wasn't that much use to this skybox other than presenting the world of Requiem and having this cool aha moment specifically. It wasn't used throughout the entire level of the game, but it still still looks cool. And then we have more to talk about, but I'm not gonna waste your time with a full ad. So just, you guys need to fill up on your gamer subs. Don't forget, get the cool gamer cups and use code RocketSloth at checkout because they give us a pretty fair share every time you use that. So support us and drink gamer subs. That'd be cool. Okay, back to the video. Also, in both Halo 2 and Halo 2 Anniversary, throughout the level Regret, in the distance, you can usually see the Sentinel wall, which just looks really cool as this set piece that does come into play later on. And while with the campaigns that take place specifically on Earth, obviously they're more limited in what type of fantastical or over-the-top set pieces they can create. So the ones that take place on Earth that are really unique are definitely worth noting even extra. For the first half of Halo 3, the game mostly relies on a more local world building, as the skyboxes aren't huge and massive and out of this world like, and that's fine as a lot of the Halo 3 campaign levels look great because they leaned into other design aspects to make each level look unique in that first half. And even ODST, once again, is taking place on Earth, is limited in what it can do with the skyboxes, but when there's an opportunity, they definitely have done some really cool things, where with ODST, utilizing simple structures on the out of bounds area create this forced perspective, making the city really feel like this alive setting where you can look off in the distance and once again wonder, what's over there? I think the orbital elevator being there at the beginning of the game and then collapsing, and then the debris and all of that existing in the backgrounds is a really cool way to paint this out of bounds area, even if it doesn't 100% count as a skybox. And as we said with the beginning of Halo 3 not having these fantastical skyboxes, when you do get to the Ark halfway through the game, the Ark level has a really cool skybox. You literally can see the Milky Way galaxy and these oceans with these waterfalls, just something unlike anything you would actually see on Earth. The Warthog run in Halo 3 was always something really interesting. I feel like so many players for the longest time have looked up at what's going on during the Warthog run and maybe ask their friend like, hey, what's going on up there? And most of the time people's like, I don't know, we gotta drive. Still, I wonder what's going on. It looks chaotic. It definitely looks very end of the world-y, and it's perfectly fitting for everything that's going on. I mean, this ring is literally falling apart on itself. I think lore-wise, what it actually is like the Ark grabbing resources from some planet, and then obviously the planet's being destroyed in the process, and then those resources are being allocated to the building and construction of the new ring, but I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like that makes the most sense. But yeah, this is just one of the more questionable ones. It never really gets explained in the story, so you're kind of left wondering what the hell's going on there, and I love it. While we did talk about a couple of multiplayer levels already, I want to focus a little more into multiplayer because there's some other really cool examples as well. We all know that Halo 3 Blackout is probably one of the coziest levels in all of Halo history, and I do like, if you look down, you can see just this ice out there, but also you look to the sky. This is also on other maps like Sandbox. There are shooting stars that happen every couple of minutes, which is kind of cool too. Assembly in Halo 3 takes us to a place we've never even been to in the Halo universe, which is where they make the scarabs, and that's just kind of a cool setting. Instead of just the purple aesthetic we're used to when it comes to Covenant stuff, we get a little bit of green, and we get to see a scarab literally being made in the background, and that's really cool. Specifically on the Halo 3 multiplayer map Orbital, but this could also apply for Cairo Station or Pillar of Autumn from the original Combat Evolved, but just any little space station where we get to look off and see stuff in space. I'm just always a big fan of these levels, especially Orbital. Just the fact that this feels more like a little terminal airport beyond just this really cool set piece in outer space. It's just a really cool thing that they did here. I always thought that the map from Halo Combat Evolved's multiplayer, Japhyrophobia, was one of the more interesting ones because we're in this huge space bridge for some reason, and we're in space. When it comes to Halo 2's multiplayer, I felt like multiplayer map location-wise, we don't necessarily get to go to as many amazing skybox locations that are unique from what we see in the campaign. Like, we have Gemini, which is on High Charity, Turf, which reuses assets from Outskirts, and so on, but it does make maps like Lockout and also Ivory Tower a little bit more unique, as for instance on Ivory Tower you can look off and see this dense fog below the cityscape, even though I do think this is kind of inspired by Metropolis. And Lockout, of course, a nice little cozy snow map. When it comes to Halo 3, there also were some maps that were added in from the canceled Halo Online game when MCC rolled out some extra maps a while back, and these are Waterfall, Edge, and Icebox. And I do have to say, all three of these maps are pretty cool, especially in their skybox. Each map has this really unique view that you can just look out at and kind of think that this is a part of the bigger Halo universe in one way or another, even if this was intended just for Russian audiences. I really think that Edge just has this amazing set piece where you just look out, and I don't think a lot of people appreciate it because you're too busy like murdering each other, but it is pretty to look at. Also, we can look to Waterfall, which, you know, is a little bit limited on how many waterfalls are actually on this map, but snow-wise and just UNSC base-wise, this is a cool location for it to be set in. They did some really cool stuff with moving parts in the background within just the skybox to keep things looking updated, specifically since this was supposed to release years and years after Halo 3. And while we are limited on what we can see on Icebox, this is a turf remake, but set in a different location, we still can kind of see some stuff in the distance, and it does kind of paint this larger than life city similar to what we said about ODST already. Halo Reach was interesting because at the time of Reach's launch, we didn't have too many locations that actually took place on a Halo ring, but we got Forge World, which did take place on a Halo ring, and that was really cool. And we also had this mountain in the distance that I really like. I like this mountain. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but I always felt like there was a skull kind of shaped into the mountain, and I thought that was really cool. Maybe it was just me. It's not fully really a part of the skybox per se, but it's part of the background, and I think it ties together with the actual skybox being that Halo ring that you can never actually access because it's this own geometric figure that's kind of placed out of bounds. But hey, it's cool. Now, we did have the pit in Halo 3, and it was a simple like base, nothing crazy going on out of bounds. And then in Halo 4, it just goes crazy in its remake with what's going on out of bounds. I mean, we just have like the end of the world happening outside of this base all of a sudden, and I love this. I don't know what the decision was to make this a thing, but it's great. Unfortunately, with Halo Infinite, it looks like things have calmed down a bit, but and Halo 4's, it might not have been the best adaptation of the map, but it went hard when it came to what's going on in the skybox or outside of the actual map itself. In Combat Evolved Anniversary, we got all those Reach maps remade as well, and we did have Breakneck, which added in this little bridge in the background connected to this other little island, which I'm pretty sure is an homage to ODST, as I think that's the bridge from Uplift Reserve connecting to the coastal highway right there. And of course in ODST you can't actually see the map location. I think it's actually a really clever thing to kind of place this map there to fit into the ODST universe a little bit, since it takes place in the same city. I don't know, I really appreciated this one. And while for the most part Firefight already took place in existing locations that we've been to in the Halo universe, there was one map added as DLC called Unearthed that took place in a completely unique location. And I always wanted to have a campaign level or something like that take place here because it is a really cool locale. I mean, look at this. Look at all the dirt and stuff. Chef's kiss. Mwah. Perfect. Halo 2 Anniversary had a lot of the multiplayer maps made by certain Affinity, and I'll be honest, these skyboxes are really good. Mostly across the board. We didn't get too many Halo 2 Anniversary maps, but they looked really good. Like Zenith, which also was a Forge map, was amazing because it was just this really high up perspective on a Halo ring. Bloodline was a really cool reimagination of the famous Blood Gulch, as typically we had this mix of like grass and desert, and while Forge World made it more of a grassy canyon, this one just leans hard into the desert atmosphere. I'll be honest, I don't fully understand what's going on with Warlord, but it does have a skybox, to say the least. I've always appreciated the mountains in Shrine, how they use different geometric pieces and images to kind of stack the mountains in the distance and make them look the way that they do. And then there's Remnant, which looks kind of like an art piece, which is cool too. Okay, then going back to Halo Online, I am still holding out hope that we'll see some of those other maps that were made for Halo 3 that didn't get ported into MCC just yet. Like for instance, Diamondback, which this map is a remake of Avalanche, but with a complete desert theme to it, and the skybox looks absolutely gorgeous here in Halo Online, and no one gets to experience it right now. So it would be really cool if they decide to bring this map back. And then there was the cut map called Reactor, which was also in Halo Online. And this map, amazing. Look at these mountains in the background. And though it's a grassy little area you get to fight in, these mountains enclosing the map itself is such a cool detail that I really wish just wasn't forgotten about and could be utilized in the MCC in one way or another. Halo 5 does have some really cool looking set pieces, especially on Sang Helios. And when you're like in that one city at night or whatever. And Halo Infinite having the day and night cycle and them taking that extra year to really tidy up the graphics does provide some really beautiful visuals when you are on the Halo ring in the open world segments. Now, there are some interesting goofy skyboxes that also exist in Halo, like in Halo 2 Anniversary. If you go up to this area where you're not really supposed to go to, you can tell that this skybox is really just this fake ceiling dome thing, and it's the smallest skybox in the entire game. It's interesting, but a little underwhelming. Similarly, in Halo 4, on the final level of the game, you can get into this little room, and once again, there's this little fake ceiling, and then you can clip through the ceiling, and there's this big room, and I don't even know what's going on in here, but it is interesting. I do have to say, I really liked how in Halo 4's finale area, when you fight against the Didac, you get to see Earth and the moon just massively in scale right there in the backdrop. I never really paid too much attention to it before, but recently I've kind of noticed it and appreciated that. Like we said, not every map has to have a fantastical skybox to be like a top tier map, and even some of the simpler ones allow for some things that aren't a part of the skybox to come to the forefront and become more of the identity of the map, like Sandbox and its simpler skybox, but those cool looming towers that exist in the foreground of the skybox kind of take over that territory. But then some of the time you're hit with like a behemoth from Halo Infinite and you're like, what in tarnation is going on out there? And it's something I really appreciate with the way that Halo has been built, that all of these unique set pieces can be a part of both the campaign and the multiplayer experiences. I've always been a huge fan of Halo 5's remake of Halo 4's Haven, once again leaning into that elite planet set piece a bit on St. Helios. And I'll be honest, even some of the goofier set pieces where you look at it and you're like, well, I guess they're trying to do something really cool here, still get some sort of points because there's an effort made. Like on Halo 2's Arbiter, when you're outside, when the Phantom flies in, you look off in the distance, this thing just kind of looks like a JPEG pasted there. Or in ODST Data Hive, this whole level doesn't have a skybox, but it does have a little JPEG back all the way down here where typically the Prophet of Truth flies in at that post-credits cutscene or whatever, and it's just kind of this silly image, but hey, it's something. Even little things that you don't think of at first that slowly paint a larger picture for the overall Halo universe can also be a really cool thing to think about. Like on Avalanche, you can notice that the Halo ring is broken up, where on levels like Tempest, you can realize the Halo ring is curved at the edges, unlike any of the Halo rings we've seen canonically so far. Ultimately, there's no denying that Halo has an incredible track record when it comes to just atmospheric design across the games in both campaign and multiplayer. And maybe next time when you're playing through Halo, take a second and appreciate the ambiance or the atmosphere or some of the energy and effort that went into creating these amazing set pieces, even if they aren't the focal point and the main thing you're trying to experience when playing these games. But hey, if you like this video, make sure you're subscribed. Huge thank you to our patrons for making this video even possible. Because of the support on Patreon, we're able to make these little bit more unique type videos every now and again, and that's something that's really fun for us to get to do. So if you want to support us and you have a couple dollars burning a hole in your pocket, you can always throw it our way and we will make good use of it. But yeah, thanks to our patrons once again. That's it for today. We'll see you all next time with a brand new video.